Market Musings podcast with Fairbairn and Russell. Welcome to the Market Musings podcast, where today David Price, the CEO of Rockfire Resources, is joining us from Brisbane. And I remember, David, you were actually our first guest that we had on the Market Musings podcast, and I think this is your third appearance on the podcast, and we've not spoken for a little while on this podcast, and we've got a few things to catch up on, but it's great to be talking to you again. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you, Mark and Kenny. Thanks for having me again. It's quite an honour to be your first guest, actually. So yeah, I'm quite proud of that. Yeah, that's
good,
great.
Good. And Kenny, how are you?
Yeah.
You had a big birthday over the weekend.
It was last weekend. Yeah, so I turned 50, and ever since then, my life's just been chaos. It feels like I'm catching up constantly.
Okay.
That's what happens
for last week.
Yeah, that's what happens when you take 4 or 5 days off. Everything's waiting for you when you come back. So yeah, it'll probably take me a couple of days to get back into the swing of things. But maybe got a 50-year-old body, but I still feel like 18. So that's all that matters to me. Yeah. And Mark, I believe you've got an event this week as well. We might as well get all the events out the way.
I suppose so. Yeah, I'm going back to the UK on Wednesday to get married for the second time to the same person. This is the however you want to look at it, the official one, the real one, whatever you want to look at it. But I'm already married on paper, but this is the bigger event with a bit of a party. So yeah, that's happening on Saturday, and then at the same time I come back and move to Rotterdam from The Hague. So I have a busy week ahead, and then it'll be back to normal. So yeah, a bit of a hectic week.
Yeah.
But,
Good. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I never got an invite either. What was that all about, Mark?
We don't want drunk Scotsmen at the wedding, thank you, Kenny.
All right, okay. Well, you don't need to come up to the office anymore. That's fine. Anyway, right. Enough of our banter. David doesn't want to hear us sledging each other.
Oh yes, I do.
You do, yeah. You Australians are good at sledging. It's the cricket, isn't it?
That's right. Yes, we have a reputation for that sort of activity. So I'm quite happy to sit and listen to you guys sledge off.
Yeah, definitely. But so it's been a while, David. So I mean, obviously we'll come on to Rockfire later on the podcast. But what have you been up to? I mean, I know you've been about. You've been on site quite a lot recently as well, doing bits and pieces.
Yeah, we've been really busy actually, and we powered through the COVID because our projects were all in Queensland, and all of our contractors and our personnel were all in Queensland, so we were able to power through pretty well. And we've actually achieved a remarkable amount, and I don't believe that the market's really caught up on that or thought much about it, because at Rockfire is your classic explorer, and what we do is explore for minerals. It's what our investors pay us to do, and they put money into the company so we can spend that money exploring. And there's it's quite remarkable actually, because in the last 18 months, we've come up with our updated gold and silver resources at Plateau, and we've come up with our maiden copper, molybdenum and silver resource at Copperhead. And now we've literally come out in the last month with our maiden zinc, lead, silver resource at Moly in Greece. So literally in the last 18 months, we've been able to bring the company from just a few very immature resources through to a multi-project, multi-resource company. And I think that's been missed by the market, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the markets are terrible. I mean, you almost feel as if a company could release 100 metres at 10 grams a tonne for gold, and it'll probably be down 5%. That's the way the market feels at the moment.
It's amazing.
It's just a slog, and you wonder what's going to turn it around. Is it? I keep saying to people, it's going to be some left field. Something happens in the world that nobody's expecting. Not that black swan event, but just something will trigger it off, and then it'll be off to the races. We've all been here before. You're slightly older than me, David. I know I'm old, and you're both a lot older than Mark. But we've seen this before. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very subdued at the moment. Just no liquidity or nothing. It's very, very strange.
Yes. Well, I saw a company on the ASX that came out with this phenomenal gold copper drill intersection the other day, and it was a jaw-dropping intersection. I can't remember the exact numbers, so I won't quote them, but the company rose only 8%. And, you and I both remember the days when you come out with a drill intersection like that, and the thing will run 100%. So it's extraordinary that it's really not getting that much traction in Australia either. So I don't think you're Robinson Crusoe over there in England. So
yeah.
I think it's certainly a global wariness, if you like, of investment at the moment. I think with the uncertainty that's going around the world on a number of fronts, that I think people are a bit reluctant to be putting their money into microcaps, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, commodity prices are all-time highs. I know gold is it's pretty flat at the moment, sitting around about 1,800, 1,900, which is still very high, historically. Copper's at an all-time high, nickel, zinc's pushing up to its highs as well. At some point, this has got to filter down to the junior explorers. The producers must be having a field day at the moment. It'll be interesting to see when they start pushing out their the results to see what kind of impact it's had on the producers. But eventually it's got to filter down to, a junior explorer like Rockfire, David.
Yeah, look, it will eventually. And that's just a matter of time, Kenny. You're quite right with that. And, as I say, we've seen it before, and there's that lag period where the uncertainty is there. And then there's a trigger that happens that the uncertainty is either realised or it's diverted, and then people start to reinvest into the market and become bullish again. So it's cyclical. We've seen it before, and I think that it will turn around. And in the meantime, at Rockfire, we'll just keep exploring and keep expanding those resources.
I think that's the best thing to do, isn't it? You just keep going, keep your head down, and keep going through the kind of the downturn, if you like, or the malaise that's going on, and come out the other end a lot stronger. As long as you're there all the time, beating the drum, carrying on, and you're still there when it does kick, which it will. And I did a podcast just last week with the Commodities resource investor. Went out this morning. Some compelling quotes from there, particularly if we are going to go down the green route, but it seems like the world is going. He reckons we have to create the investment of 6 United States in the next 30 years, and most of it's going to happen in the next 15. And the demand is going to be so huge for these commodities, but we just don't see it yet. We don't see it yet at the miners. But when it happens, I've been investing since 2013, mostly in mining exploration companies, and there's been a couple of bullish times, but not the super cycle or the huge bull cycle that I've heard many stories of. So I hope very much that it does happen. I'm sure it will, but I think it might be driven by this green commodities boom. We're going to have to go through. Those commodities will do very well, and then all of us investors will hopefully also benefit extremely well from that. But it's just getting to that point, isn't it? And picking the companies that have got good management, that are continuing to explore, that have good-looking projects. And if you want to, get the real big rewards, you're picking the ones that just aren't recognised at the minute, just to have low-value market cap. And Rockfire is one of them, I'd say. Was it 6 million at the minute, is it, David, about?
It's about 6 million, yes. Yeah. It's I noticed that we had a research note put out recently by Allenby, and they put the current valuation at 2.6 pence, and we're sitting at around 0.5 at the moment. So that was pretty. Well, I reckon that was actually subdued in itself, to be honest with you. But that's okay. I'm happy with 2.6. I think most of our investors would be happy at 2.6 in the short term. But it's interesting what you say, Mark, and you're bang on with the commodity cycles and the markets and the prices and demand. We put out a tweet last week. Rockfire Resources put out a tweet, and we quoted Nicholas Snowden. And Nicholas Snowden is a metals strategist with Goldman Sachs. And he put out a copper prediction that it could potentially end up at $100,000 per ton. And now that's an over extreme prediction, but it's interesting that you get people like Goldman Sachs or companies like Goldman Sachs, their strategists are predicting and quoting those sort of numbers. Now that's just outrageous prediction. And for Rockfire, it's a pleasantly outrageous prediction because we've got 120,000 tonnes already at Copperhead. And if those prices start to move anywhere near those sort of values, then that's an extreme windfall for Rockfire.
Indeed, yeah, indeed. Who was that? Nicholas Snowden, you said?
Nicholas Snowden,
okay.
From Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
And you can see it on the Rockfire Twitter site.
Okay.
And that's got a link to the article.
Oh, good. You need to get him on, Mark, so you do. That's a task for you. Get him on. Talk about
That's right. That's right. Get everybody onto the Rockfire Twitter site.
So obviously, David, you guys have been focused in Australia since you joined the board, but obviously there's been an addition recently, and we'll come to that in a wee while. But I think it'd be quite good, maybe just for investors, if you could give a sort of 2-minute summary of each of the projects in Australia, where they're at, what the next stage is, etc.
Sure, most definitely. Look, I'll start with the gold, and it's probably the first project that Rockfire concentrated on, and all of the Rockfire assets are in Queensland in Australia. So during the wet season, it's a bit seasonal because it really dumps down. It dumps down with meters of rain. So we get our field season during the dry season, which is basically from about April through to about November is the usual dry season. And last year we updated the JORC resource at Plateau. Plateau is our flagship gold project, and we ended up with 131,000 ounces of gold and 800,000 ounces of silver. Now, importantly, there's 53,000 ounces of that gold is actually in the top 70 meters. So it means that there's opportunity for open cut mining, which is reasonably cheap when you compare it with underground extraction. And the other thing is that we have 2 operating gold mines within about 50 kilometres of Plateau. So we have a couple of options for not only expanding that near surface gold, but also the potential to be able to utilise some of the infrastructure that other companies have nearby. We haven't started discussions with any of them at the moment because we want to build that gold resource up. We feel it's much larger than it currently is, and we've already got indications at surface from soil sampling and rock sampling and geophysics that there are many additional targets close to Plateau. So we're keen to be able to expand that. So you'll hear about Plateau as we expand those gold and silver resources. And then we have Copperhead, which is our flagship copper project at the moment. And we drilled there. It was our maiden drilling program. And the whole purpose of drilling there was to verify some historical drilling that had been done there in 1972 and to bring that drilling into JORC compliancy. So we drilled 5 holes as our maiden drilling program. And we ended up with 80,000 tonnes of copper and 9,500 tonnes of molybdenum and 1.1 million ounces of silver. That's not a bad maiden drilling program. And we were pretty happy with that. It is low grade, and we can't hide the fact that at the moment it is very low grade. And if you compare them to copper deposits around the world, it is low grade. We're not ignorant of that, but what we can do is this gives us opportunity to expand our knowledge of the deposit. And we've only literally tested about 400 meters of an anomaly that's about 5 kilometers long. So we've only scratched the surface at Copperhead. And the fact that every hole, for the length of every hole, hit copper, I think is a phenomenal outcome. And it's a great achievement, and it just opens the door wide open to finding more copper in all directions. So I think the market viewed the grade and thought that it was too low grade, and that's a natural reaction when you see the grade. However, you have to think at these types of deposits. These porphyry copper deposits are extremely large deposits, and some of the porphyry copper deposits around the world are literally 2 or 3 billion tons of material. So we've got a long way to go, and Copperhead's in its infancy. And we've got a lot of faith in finding more copper there. So again, you'll hear about Copperhead as we develop that, and we will expand that. And our other copper project also in Queensland, which is Copper Dome, we're planning to drill that later in the year as well. Now, Copper Dome is a little bit different to Copperhead. Copperhead is copper molybdenum, and Copper Dome is copper gold. So it's a copper gold target, great looking target, and that will be a really exciting one for us to drill as well. So we're looking forward to that as well. So they're the three main projects that we have in Queensland. And our company is based on the exploration for precious metals, that is gold and silver, and also base metals, which includes copper and now zinc and lead at Moly in Greece. So we're still on the same path with precious and base metals. So the zinc and the lead are both base metals, and so it's not a complete departure from what we've been doing in Queensland. It actually fits in beautifully, and particularly as you were saying earlier, Kenny, that I think it was Mark that was saying it, is that the demand for green energy and the use of all of these zinc and copper in electric vehicles and wind turbines and all these green energy industries, it's a great place for us to be with that. And as you say, if you're looking at the next 15 years of growth in that industry, well, we're going to be well positioned.
Yeah. How did that project come about, David? Because obviously it's out with your usual jurisdiction. It's certainly an interesting project. I'm just scanning through the presentation just now. It looks so close to the port. It just looks, you couldn't place a deposit better.
Yeah, that's right. It's that's the Moly deposit in Greece. It's actually in the Peloponnese region, which is in southern Greece. Not many people know this, Mark and Kenny, but in 1997 through to 1999, for a period of about 2 to 2.5 years there, I was the country manager in Greece, based in Greece, for Danae Resources. And Danae Resources had a gold project in northern Greece, very close to the Bulgarian border. And while I was project manager there, we moved that from about 100,000 ounces of gold when we bought the project to over 1 million ounces, and at very high grade, at around 12 grams per tonne gold. So it was a very big project. We had multiple rigs. We had multiple people from all over the world, multiple, what's the word I'm looking for? Personnel involved. And it was a tremendous project. Ultimately, the company got bought out, and I then returned to Australia when they got bought out. Now, while I was there, I got very, very good contacts. I researched a lot of projects in Greece. It was part of my work description. And so I kept in contact with these people in Greece all of those years. So for about 20 to 25 years, I've been in contact with people in Greece, and I've visited frequently, probably half a dozen times in that time period, to be able to keep in contact and meet with people and catch up with people. And the Moly project, Moly was a project that we identified very early, probably around maybe 2012, maybe a little bit earlier even. And we ended up looking at it and thinking, well, we could try to get it, but there was a decree that's over the Moly project, and the law states that only the Greek government is permitted to explore and mine the Moly project because it was deemed to be very significant for Greece. So when we looked into the decree, there's a caveat in the decree that says if the government decides to take the project for international tender, then it can be issued as an international tender and be issued to someone other than the Greek state. So we met with the Greek government and we spoke with them and we checked to see if they were planning to take the project to tender or if they were planning to develop it themselves. And they decided that it was now time to take the project for international tender. So they put the project out for international tender, and Rockfire participated in that international tender through a company that was incorporated and registered in Greece called Hellenic Minerals. And Hellenic Minerals applied for the Moly license with the financial and the technical support from Rockfire. So that's how Rockfire became involved in the project, is my background in Greece and the contacts that I have developed and maintained over so many, many years. And Rockfire and Hellenic ended up winning the bid. The tender, the license was awarded to Rockfire and Hellenic, and subsequently Rockfire has now bought or acquired, they haven't bought them, they've acquired 100% of the shares in Hellenic. So Hellenic, the local operating company, is now 100% subsidiary of Rockfire, and Hellenic has 100% rights to the exploration and the mining rights of Moly. And that's important too, because in Greece they issue exploration and exploitation licenses, and they're for a period of 30 years. So we're pretty fortunate to be able to win that bid, and we're very excited because it is really, as you can see from the maiden JORC resource that we put out recently, it's a pretty impressive deposit, and it has a long way to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the June 22 presentation in particular. Page 10 jumps out at me. You know, it's sort of the map that shows that it's open north and south and at depth, and some of the grades are extraordinary and just seem to be increasing at depth. I mean, the grades are 25 at surface, and then the time you go down, it looks like 200 meters, you're over 10% zinc. So it looks mighty.
Yeah,
it looks as if you've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, very much so. There's about 1.4 kilometres that has been tested by the Greek government, and the results that they got in that 1.4 kilometres actually prompted them to do a feasibility study. So there was a full feasibility study on that. And as a result of the feasibility study, they actually decided to develop an exploration decline, which they did develop to about 700-metre length. And that takes them to the base of the oxide. So you've got about 40 metres of very strongly weathered rock. And what they wanted to do is to get down beneath that weathering profile into fresh rock, where the ground was more stable, the grades are more predictable. And so what they did is that they lined the decline with timber and steel supports. There's a combination of steel and timber supports down the length of the decline. And that takes you to the top of the fresh rock. Now, our resource actually eliminated the top 40 metres deliberately, because we're not planning to do open cut mining in Greece. I think that would be problematic from a social point of view and an environmental point of view. And with the decline already developed there, we can actually get down into the hard, fresh sulfide ore at about 50 metres down anyway. So it makes great sense for us to do that, to get back in underground and to develop the project from there. So our resource, we were quite harsh on the resource. We deliberately cut out the top 40 metres. So there's the zinc goes to the surface. It goes all the way to the surface, but we eliminated the top 40 metres. And we also were quite harsh in how far we actually extended the zinc modelling in our resource. So, for example, if you go to the north and where our modelling stops, there's two drill holes about 100 metres north. Now, we had a 50-metre limit. So at 50 metres, we cut the model off and we said, that's it, no more zinc. But further on, 100 metres out, there are two holes that have both hit high-grade zinc. And then another 100 metres away, so we're 200 metres from our model, there's two additional holes that have hit high-grade zinc. So we could have added them in and we would have ended up with a much larger tonnage. However, we were quite deliberately savage on the resource because we want this to be realistic. There's no point extrapolating things literally for hundreds of metres when we don't have infill drilling in that 200-metre zone. So we did that, and despite cutting back the top 40 metres, despite limiting our reach to 50 metres from any drill hole, we actually ended up with a very, very impressive resource. So it's robust. It's a great resource. And the other thing that we did, as you've actually got layers. So there's not one zone that dips off at depth. There's actually layers above the main zone and there are layers below the main zone. Now, those zinc layers have got amazing grades in them, including a metre at 14, 3 metres at 6% zinc, 1.5 metres, 18% zinc, 9 metres at 3.4. So these we did not include in our model. And that, again, was a very deliberate strategy. We felt that those zones, the upper and the lower zones, above and below the main zone, were not well enough drilled to be able to include in our resource. So going forward, our drilling will actually go through those upper and lower zones, and we will infill and we will bring those into the resource as well. So the resource has the capability of growing quite significantly, not only in that 1.4 kilometres, but also we've got another 5.5 kilometres to the north. And along that 5.5 kilometre trend, we end up with holes that have been drilled by the Greek government, and they hit 3 metres at 8% zinc, 3 metres at 6%, 7 metres at 10% zinc, 3 metres at 12% zinc. So look, there's zinc all the way along that 5.5 kilometres, and we intend to drill that out over the next 2 years. So we'll be expanding our reach along to the north, and this will build a very, very significant zinc deposit.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, from the presentation, I know you said it was 5 kilometres strike length, but it's in reality it's almost double that because there's sort of repetitions and splays along the strike.
Exactly right, Kenny. What we end up with is, because of the loads that sit above and below the main zone, this is what I'm calling the repetitions, along that 5.5 kilometres, you're going to have, and we have evidence for, those repetitions occurring all the way along. So we could end up, as we say in our presentation, there's actually a total target length of about 11 kilometres of additional zinc. Now, the interesting thing is the zinc at surface that has been mapped at surface, this is zinc, it's a gossan. It's actually a weathered zinc deposit that you can see at surface. And this is the mapping of it. So they've sampled it with rock sampling, they've sampled it with soil sampling, they've sampled it with stream sampling. This is the government, by the way. And they've also drilled it. All the rocks, all the soils, all the drilling, all of the mapping. We've got great evidence that it's there, and we intend to chase that as we go forward.
Yeah, and obviously you've got the added benefit as well. There's some credits here as well. There's a bit of silver and there's a bit of lead as well, as you tend to get with these kind of zinc deposits. So that's an added bonus.
Yeah, absolutely right. So with the Mollai, we've ended up with about 210,000 tonnes of zinc, 39,000 tonnes of lead, and up to 3.5 million ounces of silver. So it's really good. We did confirm that there's no gold in that system. We actually analysed quite a bit of the old drill core that we found, and that doesn't have any gold in it. But what it does have, surprisingly, was actually germanium. Germanium is a critical metal, so it's listed as a critical metal in the world's demand. So effectively, what they say is that they're deemed to be vital for the world. And particularly germanium, it's deemed to be vital because the supply of germanium is risky because of geological scarcity. So germanium is very typically one as a byproduct of zinc mining. So germanium itself doesn't tend to occur in the Free State in deposits that you can mine germanium. So they don't have germanium mines. What they do is they have zinc mines that produce germanium as a byproduct. So germanium is used in mobile phones. It's used in camera lenses, computer screens, satellites. Even in your car, you've got your steering and your parking sensors. They all use germanium. So, look, there's a huge application in everyday technology for germanium. And then you also have military applications for germanium. So they use cytoscopes for guns and missiles, and infrared night vision for manned personnel at night combat. So there's military applications, but our focus, of course, and our hope is that it will be used for everyday technology, and so we're fortunate to have that as a byproduct. That came about because I read a paper from 2012, a geological paper, and it was a scientific paper that said that Mollai deposit may be prospective for germanium, gallium, and indium. And so when we came along to visit and resample the old core, we said, well, look, let's analyze for germanium, gallium, and indium. Let's not miss anything. And as part of our technical due diligence, we analysed for them. And there's no gallium in it, very, very little gallium, very little indium, but the germanium came back at reasonably, almost commercial grades. So I think, well, the reason I say almost commercial grades, some of the grades were well and truly commercial grades, but we don't really have enough analysis for germanium done. And that's why we were not able to include germanium as a byproduct in our geological model and our resource estimate.
Yeah, it certainly sounds an interesting prospect. So what are the next stages then for this deposit, David, going 2022? Next 6 months, I know it's hard to...
Yep, no, that's okay. What we're planning to do at the moment, in Greece, it's exactly the same as in Queensland and Australia. What we have to do before we do any drilling programs, we have to inform the government of, for example, the size of our drilling pads. How many roads do we need to develop to get to the drilling pads? How many meters the hole will be? What's the inclination of the hole? So all of this gets, in Greece, it's separated into an environmental report and a technical report. So the technical deals with all of the drilling statistics, how many holes, the depth, etc. And the environmental study includes things like the tracks. How many tracks are we going to develop? How many trees will we need to bulldoze to get to the drill pads? Will anybody's houses be impacted? Their lifestyle, their cropping, because there's quite a lot of olive groves in the area. So what we've done is designed our drilling program to actually we've ended up with a program that drills pretty well in some fairly nice open spaces, and that's deliberate. It doesn't impact on the results that we're looking for because we can reach our target at the areas that are between olive trees and between plantations. So that's been done. Now, what we're doing, we've selected an environmental group to put that report in for us, and we've selected a technical group to put that report in for us. And so they're busy doing that now. So we anticipate that that'll probably be a couple of months to get all of that in and submitted and ready for approval. And then the Greek government, by law, they have to respond in a period of about 30 days. So we're looking at probably 2 to 3 months until we get those permits in place. And in the meantime, what we will be doing is actually doing a desktop study to see what is required to be able to reopen that old portal in the decline. Do we need additional permits? How much will it cost? What equipment will we need? And et cetera, to be able to appraise if that's going to be achievable or not. So you'll see that come through. And of course, we will be continuing our work in Queensland as well.
Excellent. Would it be fair to say, David, that I get the feeling now that the Greek project is probably one of your, top 2 core projects in the company? It seems to have came from nowhere and it's now sitting in number 1 or potential number 2 position?
Yeah, Kenny, look, I think logically it has to. And the reason is that it's so high grade and it's so advanced. When you compare it with Plateau and Copperhead, Copperhead is very low grade and it's very large. So it's going to take a lot of drilling. It's going to take a lot of dollars. It's going to take a lot of manpower and equipment to be able to continue drilling Copperhead. And we will continue that. But in a time frame for our investors, I don't think that Copperhead is going to be able to get to the point that we can monetize that early enough for our investors. They're not going to wait around for years while we drill our Copperhead. So in the meantime, we're looking at Mollai, which is basically the more advanced project. So we have literally 173 drill holes, diamond holes already drilled there. We've got a maiden resource. We've got the potential to get underground. And also we have the mining rights. So it's a much more advanced project for Rockfire, and I believe that that's probably what our investors would want us to focus on, is trying to monetize our projects as quickly as we can and not beat around the bush with drilling things out for years and years and years.
Yeah, so David, obviously you guys are based out in Australia. How does the management of a project, halfway around the world go? Have you got people in place on the ground? Have you got a team dedicated, for this particular project?
We do. We've got the guy that I had as my administration manager 25 years ago in Greece. He's been instrumental in working with me to get the license granted to Rockfire. Now he's our country manager now. And so he's pushing the permits through and getting the consultants organised on site. We've just employed a geologist, an experienced geologist. And this is the other thing about Greece. Greece has an enormous number of highly, highly qualified technical personnel, not only geologists, but metallurgists and mining engineers. It's extraordinary wealth of knowledge and experience in Greece. What had happened previously is that the Greek universities have produced many geologists and mining engineers and metallurgists. And because of a lack of work in Greece, they tend to go to Canada and to Australia to get their experience. And they get experience in very, very good quality, high quality and very big projects. Now that we've found Mollai and we've been able to get the license for Mollai and we're advancing Mollai, of course, a lot of these people want to come back and live in Greece again. So we are getting applications from people all over the world who have got extraordinary experience on some world-class projects, and they want to come back to Greece and live in Greece and work for Rockfire at the Mollai. So we've got people not only in Greece, but other people around the world that are very keen to be working on Mollai. And we're fortunate. So what we've done is we've now employed a geologist to help us push through these permits and to then man the drill rig with us and for us. And also we've taken on a field technician from Mollai. So we're building our team as we speak, and that team will continue to grow as we develop the resource.
Excellent. No, it sounds exciting, and definitely.
News
flow ahead.
Look, it's a great project.
Yeah, and it's just come out of the blue as well. So, and as you say, it's been totally missed by the market. At some point, it'll get noticed, and the share price will reflect that. But market, yes. Obviously, I've been talking too much. I'll let you jump in.
Well, I think we covered it all, didn't we? I think what I've heard about the Greece project is excellent. I think it's a great project that you've picked up there, David, in a good jurisdiction as well, with support of the government. I think it's perhaps nice as well that it's in the European Union. It's a bit closer, perhaps, to geographically to the London markets than Australia. Whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. But I think it's nice to spread the mix a little bit there. And you've got your JORC resource, didn't you? Only, what was it, 2 weeks ago you came up with the maiden JORC on that project. So that means you've got JORCs on pretty much all your projects at the moment, doesn't it?
That's exactly right, Mark. And I think this is the thing, is that we are an exploration company, and now we've got JORC resources at Plateau, we have JORC resources at Copperhead, and we have JORC resources at Mollai. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have a JORC resource at Copper Dome as well. So what we're doing is building very fundamental value in the company. Look, the only way that exploration junior companies can grow is to find resources, build those resources, and we're finding them, we're bringing them into JORC compliancy, and we're building them. So this is what investors should be looking at, is a company that really focuses on building real value. The underlying value of the company has to be in the resource base that it builds.
And as you said before, you think the focus will primarily be on Mollai going forward?
Look, it has to be. Yeah. And the reason is that investors won't hang around for years, as I said, just expanding resources forever. We have to monetize these. And the lowest hanging fruit, for want of a better term, is the Mollai zinc deposit, where we have so many drill holes already drilled. We have potentially access to the underground, and we can build those resources and get going much faster than we could at say, Copperhead.
And in terms of monetizing it, then I know it's perhaps early to be talking about that, but what would be the kind of the options available to you to move it on, to sell it on, or to actually start getting production going?
Well, what we do very, very well at Rockfire is to explore and find and build resources. Yeah. None of us at the moment in the company are miners. If we chose the mining route, you can always employ miners. You employ mining engineers, you employ metallurgists, and you employ mine managers. But I think for Rockfire, I think these projects have a habit of outgrowing the company, and sooner or later, another company will say, well, look, they've got solid resources in gold and silver, they've got copper resources, they've got zinc resources. And I think that one of the exit strategies, for want of a better term, or monetization for our investors, is actually to be taken out by another company. Now, that's one option. Another option is to bring another company into joint venture into one or two of the projects. So that will bring development dollars from another avenue, so our investors don't have to keep putting their hands in their pockets. So that's another avenue. And of course, and I won't write off the fact that we could go into production. It's probably the third option, because it does mean that we then transition to a producer. That in itself has its own problems. Would then have to find people to be able to do that. And I think that's probably the third option. So the first option is probably to have a buyout of the company or the project. The second one is a joint venture situation. And the third one would be to start production.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Well, that's a nice catch up on what's going on across the company. And I believe you are planning a visit to the European Union, aren't you? And the UK as well. You've got your AGM coming up, and I think, will you be visiting the site? Can we expect to see some more excited David Price looking at rocks from Greece?
Pretty hard to find me unexcited. So we have our AGM on the 30th of June in London, and that's an in-person one now. So face to face, that's going to be great, because we haven't been able to get to London for a while, and it's going to be just brilliant to catch up with everybody. And I hope we catch up with you guys as well while we're there. And we are taking a trip on to Greece. Onto the back of that, and that makes sense. While we're over there, let's go and meet up with the government again. Let's meet the mayor of Mollai and get the program advanced as quickly as we can to get drilling. So that's our aim: get drilling as quickly as we can, and we'll be pushing that ahead during the next few months.
Excellent. Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, David. Kenny, do you have any things you want to talk about?
No, all good. It was good. It was good to learn about that project. I had only scratched the surface on it, but now I've got a better understanding. And for anyone that wants to know about it, have a look at the latest Rockfire presentation, and in particular page 10. And I think that's the page that jumps out at me. So I'm excited for the future for Rockfire. Definitely a lot going on.
Yeah, no, so are we. So I'm really pleased to be able to come on and talk to you guys again and bring you up to date. And I'd like to do it more regularly. Well, I'm going to be getting out there more regularly. I know that COVID has sort of stifled me a bit because I do like to look people in the eye and have them look me in the eye and be able to explain to people exactly what we're on about. And during COVID, of course, we just we put our heads down and we just went for it, and we just kept drilling and drilling and drilling, and we were drilling consistently for the last couple of years. And the results are we've now got great resources in all these deposits, and we continue to build them.
It's excellent. It's good progress been made, David, in the last 2 years. That's really good to hear. And hopefully, yes, we can catch up when you're in London. I'm not far away, so it'd be nice to meet up and perhaps have a sit-down chat with you. They're always worthwhile. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming on today on the podcast.
Thanks for your time. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Kenny. And look forward to coming back and updating you again soon.
Thank you, David.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell. Tune in next time.